What if human beings aren't just thinking things? So asks theologian James K.A. Smith in an introduction to his book, You Are What You Love. What if, he wonders, we are less driven by what we know and more pulled by what we long for? His book starts with this fundamental postmodern shift, the undoing the illusion that human beings are primarily thinkers. He goes on to explore how understanding humans first and foremost as lovers impacts our Christian discipleship. If human beings are fundamentally lovers, then discipleship means something quite different than depositing all the right ideas, beliefs, or doctrines into our intellectual receptacle. If we are made to love God, to desire God, to hunger for what God desires for the world God loves, then our discipleship will reflect that love, that desire, that hunger. Our first reading today is from the Song of Solomon, and it is about love. Indeed, the whole book is about love, specifically romantic or erotic love. Today is the only day in the 3-year lectionary cycle that a portion of the Song of Solomon is assigned. Probably because it's kind of an odd book, in that it never mentions God directly, overtly, or prayer, or any aspect of Israel's religious practice or tradition. It is undeniably a book about love and desire, though, by which I mean sex. It really is about that. It's a love poem, a story of lovers that doesn't shy away from our bodies or our desire. We hear it in today's short passage with the palpable passion, "Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away," as a lover beckons their beloved. Perhaps we can liken it, if we like, to God calling on our desire as one calls to their lover to deeper and more intimate relationship. Understanding human beings as lovers, as desiring creatures, more than being brains on a stick, as Smith describes, changes how we think about our Christian discipleship. The full title of Smith's book helps to highlight that shift. It's called You Are What You Love: The Spiritual Power of Habit. More than being brains on a stick, Smith argues, it's our dispositions, our inclinations, the habits of our regular life that need to be formed towards Christ. Our habits are those things that we do every day, or each week, or each year. Our habits are how we spend our money and our time. Our habits tell the truth about our life. And Smith invites us to a greater consciousness about our habits, our words, and our actions. For our habits reveal what we love, the direction of our desire. It's only when we're aware of it that we have the power to make conscious choices about it. Our desire shapes our behavior, and our behavior can actually shape our desire. And it is that interaction that is the spiritual power of habit. Christian discipleship, then, is about developing our capacity to orient our desire more and more towards God and God's desire for us and for the world. So what is your desire, and how do you express it? I've been wondering about these kinds of questions for a while now here at St. George's. They come up on a variety of different topics in parish life. As we prepared to say goodbye to Marlon, for instance, and started working on what next, at first I noticed a strong desire to keep things the same, even as we intellectually knew that we could never and would never replace Marlon. A look-alike music director doesn't exist. And it kind of doesn't matter because our desire still pulls in that direction. I remember the week a while back when I realized that there was more to it. I heard more clearly from an increasing number of people in the community a desire for various types of change. Could we expand the types of music we use in worship? What about dragon song? What is the relationship between worship and performance? What is our communal desire, our collective identity, as it relates to worship and as distinct from any one individual? In other ways, throughout last spring, I increasingly heard the desire to follow Jesus, to participate in the reign of God on earth, to engage more concretely in ministry within and beyond our parish community. There's a desire to deepen our ministry of outreach and social justice. And I think there's a desire to strengthen our internal connection, which we named as pastoral care. In both cases, small but significant groups of people have started to come together to work on discerning how to live out that desire to love and serve God by serving and loving one another. This work of discernment is no small thing. Recognizing, identifying our own personal desire is a critical step. Working out what to do with that desire, how to live it out in practice, involves more than simply indulging our feelings, which I think is one way to think about those last few verses of our gospel reading today. Jesus says the things that come out of a person are what defile. In other words, it is our behavior that defiles when we misdirect or overindulge our desire, perhaps because we have ignored its presence and power in our lives. And Jesus goes on to name a whole range of ways that happens. The work of discernment is no small thing. Acknowledging our own personal desire helps free us to think about how closely it aligns or not with what we know of God and God's desire for us and for the world. Acknowledging our own personal desire also helps free us to decide how we might direct it. Most importantly, acknowledging our own desire frees us to listen to the people and the world around us. Discerning ministry in a church, any church like St. George's, is both a personal and a collective journey. How I live out my Christian discipleship is one thing. How we live out our Christian discipleship as a community of faith is something else. They are related, but not the same. And if discernment is no small thing, then the work of listening is the biggest thing of all. Listening to the desire of our own hearts and souls, listening to the diverse voices within our parish community, listening to the needs of the world. And more in this season of creation, we are reminded to listen for the wisdom in and of creation itself, like listening to the wisdom of the wind in the trees. Finally, it's worth noting on this first Sunday in the season of creation, this theme is prayer. It's worth noting that the work of discernment doesn't include prayer. The work of discernment is prayer. All of it. Every insight, every conversation, every silent moment, every experimental action, every thoughtful analysis. Discernment is prayer, and discernment is a work of love. Love for ourselves in accepting our desire as natural and holy, love for one another by listening deeply, love for the world God loves, and indeed love for the God who created it all.